It was dark as I approached the circus tent. There was a full moon in the sky. It's October 31st, All Hallows Eve, when the veil between the living and dead is at its thinnest. Excitedly, we all stood in line, pushing and shoving to make sure we got a ticket before they ran out. This only happens once a year, and there are limited tickets. I pushed the tent fabric open with both hands and walked through. To my left, there was a man holding out his hand for payment, and to the right was a woman who handed out the tickets, which had what seat number was yours written crudely on the back of it. A thick fog danced and swirled at my feet. I could barely see, it was so dark inside, so I followed the lights along the floor. Each row's number was lit up, so it was just counting my way to my chair from that. I found my chair. It smelled musty and moths fluttered out as I pulled the seat down. Once everyone was seated, a spotlight in the middle of the circus ring came on, focused on the tall, lanky woman in the middle standing upon a stool that looked dangerously small. Her coat barely buttoned up. It was full of holes, and her tiny, tattered hat sat crooked on her head. The makeup was running and smearing all over from the sweat pouring down her face. With a powerful strike of her whip, she shouted,
"Come one, come all to the circus of freaks."
Everyone cheered and clapped in their seats enthusiastically. She motioned her long, thin fingers for the first act to come out. She then stepped off the stool, picked it up, and held it in her left hand, while her whip remained in the right. A person dressed as a lion, wearing a leash and collar, was dragged out from the darkness, kicking and screaming. I covered my mouth as I gasped loudly. I can't believe what I'm seeing. He cried and tried to beg for his life, but the ringmaster cracked her whip, hitting him right in the mouth. The others jumped and cheered in their seats, but I was in shock. The ringmaster took the stool and shoved it in the crying man's face.
"Watch as I tame this wild beast,"
she exclaimed and let out a laugh. He put his arms up to protect himself, and everyone started to boo.
"Bring out the next act,"
she bellowed into the darkness.
"Get this pathetic worm out of my ring."
2 little green goblins came prancing out, each grabbing one of his arms.
"Ours now,"
they giggled as they dragged him back to the darkness. Then another set of little goblins came prancing out. The one was carrying a small metal bucket, which they placed underneath a diving board.
"Now make sure it's in the correct position. Remember the last time."
Everyone chuckled, and the goblin blushed. The second tugged on a rope in her hands, which trailed off into the darkness. A woman slowly walked out with her hands bound and her mouth taped. You could tell she had been crying for a while. Her dark hair was a mess, her eyes puffy and red.
"For my next act, this human will be climbing up this tall ladder and diving into this bucket."
The bound and gagged woman frantically shook her head no, but the goblin pushed and pinched at her. She climbed way up the ladder as everybody watched in awe. Standing at the top, she looked down, sobbing as she refused to jump. The goblin in charge of this human quickly scurried up and bit the back of the woman's ankle, causing her to fall and landing on top of the bucket with a thud.
"Isn't that amazing?"
the ringleader exclaimed with both arms in the air and a grin on her face that reached from ear to ear. Literally. Her face just about split in half. I had never seen humans before. This really was amazing.
Who's hungry?
The ringmaster laughed as we all cheered and ran for the flesh. This was an experience like no other, and hopefully next year, I'm able to get another ticket.